Hello and welcome to Butterfly Journeys Midlife Adventures, where we share real stories of travel, transformation and new beginnings. I'm your host, Joanna Filmer, and I want you to know that midlife is our time to step beyond expectations and to use travel or even a relocation as a powerful tool for rediscovery and reinvention. Let's go. I heard you made another man cry, but don't worry, baby. Good morning, Rensina. Welcome to the podcast. Where are you this morning?
Thanks, Joanna. Good morning. I'm at Clairview in Queensland, overlooking the beach. I'm here house sitting for 2 months, so I've got another 10 days and then I'm out of here. But yeah, it's been a beautiful spot.
So, Rensina, you described yourself as being nomadic. What does that mean to you on a kind of like a deeper personal level, not just in terms of movement or travel?
Well, I really just realised, actually probably in the last year, that nomadic streak is really in me. And I look back over my life, and I've always wanted to see what was over the next hill. I've got insatiable curiosity about things and about seeing what's over there, and I like the movement. So when I look back over my life, I have moved a lot, and I realise that it's from my father, his DNA. He was a real travelling person. And so we did move around a lot. And then I met someone and married someone that moved around a lot as well. So we moved around a lot. So and then I've just it's only the last year I've really come to accept that word and say, well, it is a part of who I am. And it's, and accepting that. And yeah, in a good way, because often when you're not, I have had times when I've settled in one place for a while, but the longest I've ever settled anywhere was for 12 years, in one place, even including childhood. And so, yeah, it's an acceptance of that, and that I'm good with that. I'm here for experience, not for staying in the one. I couldn't stay in the one place forever. I think it would drive me crazy. I'd be bored.
Yeah, I completely hear you. I'm exactly the same. Do you think it has a negative connotation, being nomadic?
For some people it did, and I think that's what I held for a while, because when I left my travelling partner up in Carmilla, it was about 8 years ago. We're still good mates. We travelled the world together. But when I left there, and I sort of thought, what am I going to do now? And I thought, I don't know, so I kind of went back to an old hometown, and I thought, oh my God, I don't fit anymore. I just really don't fit. And I really at the point now where I don't really know where I want to live. There's nowhere that just says you need to live here or have that pull, other than, go back and live in Mongolia or something, which is not really possible right at the moment. So I'm still, I've got a camping car, and in between, house sitting is a good thing because it gives me a chance to look around, and then in between I can stay in the car camp. It's got a bed and cooking, and I actually love that really simple life. Yeah.
So it's all stripped back. Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Not too much to think about. There's not like bills coming through the door every 2 seconds. Like that idea of being able to just get up and go. Having the car is such a good thing.
So she's a beautiful big red thing. I love it. It's gorgeous. She's my home, and she's my wheels, and she's pretty much everything really. Yeah, it was great. It's great. I really like it. And when I get in there and I'm camping in it and I'm parked somewhere and I'm at my happiest, and even when we travelled overseas and we had big ex-military truck to live in, even that showed the simplicity of that life, without not even any housework. So it's like great. And no absolute responsibilities anymore. So, and I'm retired now. So, and I can write wherever I go too. That's the other thing. I don't have to be in one place to do a job or.
Yeah, it gives you the ultimate freedom. So you said travel's been a part of your life from a very, very young age. How do you think what was you doing in your younger life when you traveled? Was that in Australia, or were you traveling out over other countries? And how did that kind of shape the woman that you then grew into?
Well, I started, my father took us from Victoria to Queensland when I was 13. So that was kind of the start, I guess. And just seeing new places and that. And then as I got into my early teens, I started to travel a bit more in Australia, see a lot of places. And then I went overseas, over to Scotland and Holland to go and have a look at my roots, where my parents came from, and my husband, we married, and he was Scottish, so we sort of, we just bought an old $300 Beetle off the side of the street and just travelled in that, and then sort of part the way through that I found out I was pregnant, so I came back and I had to lie to get on the plane to come back. Told them I was only, but I was quite due, but I was going to have my child back in Australia. So yeah, and from there I didn't really travel. I travelled a lot in Australia then, and then after that I didn't really travel again until 2005 when menopause kicked in. Well, I think that the urge to I've got to do something. It was so strong, and I had been to China to visit my sister who was teaching up their way in remote northwest, and I went up there for 3 weeks, and I thought maybe I can do that, So I came back to Australia and started looking and thought I've got to do something. It was really driven. I remember I said I have to do something. I have to do something. But before all of that stuff happened too, I studied horticulture and I did, I studied counselling and, I worked in land care and all that stuff, all that before that as well, because I had to earn a living because I raised my kids by myself from a young age. So yeah, it went from really, really volatile, difficult marriage, alcoholic, lot of domestic violence and things like that, and then a woman actually held her hand out to help me out of that. It took years, but eventually I thought, oh, that's it, I'm not going back there again. And yeah, but I still had to earn a living. So I did have some really good jobs. I worked on the islands off Queensland as head gardener and got some good things under my belt. But I still had that yearning for something more, for something more challenging, I guess. I've always been pretty keen on things that challenge me, or someone says, "Oh, you can't do that." I went, "Well, maybe I can."
Yeah, so something definitely changed around that period. And you said menopause, because that's something that really resonates, I think, with me and many women. What is it, do you think, is it about that experience, specifically as we move into that period of our life, that starts to happen, that need for change? And for you, it was travel, and for me, it was travel.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I married and had children really young too. I don't know. I just remember the feeling was really strong on one side, because I'd been thinking about it for a while. So what do I want to do? And my children, I was on my own then too, and I thought, well, yeah, I want something to challenge me. So that's why I ended up looking for some work in China and going for that, because that was something that that I thought would challenge me, and absolutely did challenge me. But it was a fantastic experience. So, but it was more a feeling. It wasn't even an age. Yeah, because I was only, what would I have been then? I was only like mid 40s, I think. So it wasn't, early to mid 40s. So it wasn't about anything going on with my body that I knew about. It was just the feeling of, I don't want to just sit here and just plod along and just go through the motions of, it
Being
wasn't enough.
comfortable. Being comfortable, isn't it? We can just stay in the same patterns. That's what makes us feel safe.
Yeah, but it never really did. That's the thing. I think my safety was always lied in doing something that challenged me and stimulated me and wanted me to look forward. It was the experiences I was looking for, I think. Yeah, because it's not the safety that was never a thing. I never felt, oh, if I go somewhere that I'll feel like, I don't really remember feeling unsafe really anywhere, really.
Yeah.
Always been quite resilient, and I always believe I've been protected. I have a strong spiritual grounding, and I'm aware too, and I'm awake, and I know how to keep myself safe and all that, and I don't put myself in situations. I just follow my intuition, and that's always been strong. So that's always been,
I think that's
and it's
really it.
stronger now.
And yes, I think it definitely gets stronger. I think you slow down. I kind of have a theory that we start to slow down, and therefore we begin to listen more to ourselves as we start to get a little bit older. So what happened when you went to China then? What were the big challenges, and how long were you there in China? That was 2005, did you say?
2005. Yeah, before then, I just want to wind back a little because before then, because my kids were still growing up and I had to, I had stability for them. I bought a house in Cairns and I worked and I did a lot of running, a lot of mountain running and
Right.
marathon running and, pyramid races. And I was like super fit. And joining the Army Reserves, I did a lot of things that were really very male orientated in some ways. I was sort of quite competitive, I think, looking back
Mm.
now. And always prided myself on, you know, getting the best time on the mountain runs, and all the blokes are still down there. I'd be like, yeah, I always had that in me. I don't know where that came from, but it was always there. So I did all that stuff, and I think that fulfilled my need to do something and to be strong. But once I moved out of that, and my kids moved away, and I moved away from that, that's when the travel thing sort of popped up again. So yeah,
So
yeah.
before you were kind of like seeking that physical experience and pushing your body in that space.
Yeah, yeah, I did
Yeah,
some
that's
really
interesting.
extraordinary things, and I was super fit. I did a thing with the 51st Battalion in Cairns, and I actually joined up because I thought my marriage had split up, and they had these ads on TV saying, meet new friends, and I thought I've got to meet some new friends, and so I thought, and I was always keen on physical stuff as well. So I joined up with them, and plus they paid as well, and on a single parent's wage and stuff when I was trying to raise the kids going to high school, that there wasn't really much money. So it was another way of adding a little bit extra income to it. So, but we ran from the tip of Cape York to Cairns on a charity run, 9 male soldiers and me, 2 years in a row. So that's my little crown for the physical
How long
stuff that I
is that?
did.
And what's the weather like and the temperatures? How do you even like get through that and prepare as well?
We did it in winter. So it was I think it was June or July. Um, so it wasn't hot, but it was. I mean, it's 1,000 kilometres from tip of Cape York to Cairns, but I didn't run 1,000. We ran 5 kilometres each round the clock. So
Right.
the first trip we did it for over a week. And we just ran during the day, and we got really pampered at night, and someone cooking for us and giving us legs a massage and all that. So
Wow.
but it was beautiful. I loved it. I just loved that
Mm.
Cape. I'd already been up there once on a trip when I was a lot younger, just driving up there. But I just loved the bush and loved the freedom, and yeah, it was really good. But I did walk across the Jardine River one morning early when it was my turn to run, and my CEO, I said, "There's crocs." He goes, "No, no, no, the water won't even come up to your knees. You'll be right." And it was my turn to run, so I couldn't say I'm not doing it because I would have been like, "Oh, you're just a girl," So I did it. And he ran with me, and I thought, if a croc comes, he's going to take him first because he's bigger. He's got big thigh muscles. Anyway, we got through that.
You
It's just
got
one
through
of
it. I was going to say, because that's one of the
I'm
things.
here.
What was the landscape like that you was running through? Because many people who are listening, maybe they've never been to Australia, especially the top end. They might not have any idea what far north Queensland's like.
Just all red dirt tracks. There was no
Mm.
bitumen. Like, it's all changed up there now. I think there's bitumen some of the way up there, but it's all like river gullies and, little small mountain ranges, but it's all dirt. It's all red dirt and just bushland. So there's lots of goannas, snakes, a few cows. Yeah, just
It's
beautiful.
wild.
Just
Yeah.
remote, wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
remote and wild, beautiful. So you
Yep.
actually like those environments because, so you like these journeys and these experiences that are not really comfortable. You like to really push yourself, don't you? That seems to
Yeah,
be,
yeah.
so you went to China. What happened then from China? Because you talked to me before about traveling overland, and you went to some really
Yeah,
unusual places that were going to test you.
yeah. Well, the China thing was going to be for a year, but I ended up for 6 months because the pollution was so extraordinary. It was unbelievable. So after 6 months, I left. And then, I was only home for a year, I guess, just trying to settle in. And I started to get a bit itchy feet, and I thought, I've got to do, what can I do now? And I thought I started to look at Africa and all that, and look for maybe doing a project over there somewhere. And then I went on a dating site, and I got a message from Alan from my travelling partner, who said, "Do you want to go across Russia in a Land Rover with me?" And I went, "Yes." I just said. I'd never even met him before, but we talked on that was the first thing he said, but we did talk on the phone a lot after that. But I did say to him, "Is it going to be cold over?" And he goes, "No, it's not going to be cold when we go." So anyway, he's a desert traveller. He's been travelling in Australia all his life. So we connected at some past life thing. I think there was some familiarity. But anyway, I to go across in a Land Rover from Australia to Switzerland in a Land Rover overland most of the way, some of the way on the ship, and that was just like, I was in heaven. And I didn't really know how challenging it would be. But we get to know each other pretty well, and then we just really fast track. I ended up moving up to Carmilla and going out to a mining camp, working 4 days on, 4 days off, cooking my butt off for miners just to try and get some extra money together. Because money was, I've never been affluent, put it that way, and I've never worried about it. I've always had enough, So so we went. That's what we did, and we did that for 5 months, and that's what my first book is. I wrote a book when I came back, and that was a result of my very wonderful girlfriends. After me sending the odd email, just telling them what we were doing, what it was like, and they said, "Oh, you've got to write more. You've got to write more." So I started to write every day, and ended up with 8 exercise books because I just used to write, even if the car was like, it was and jot a few things down to jog my memory. And then I spent a year when we came back writing that book, and I self-published it, but it's about to go to a publisher. It's not rewritten. There's a lot. It's been polished up, put it that way.
Yeah. Right. So
Yeah.
that one was you writing about the personal experience of what was going on around you, and what was that mostly more what it was about, or was it kind of describing where you were traveling as well, or both?
Well, there was a little bit of both, but it was definitely from a I put on the front of the other book was from a feminine viewpoint, or from my own personal experience. I put a lot of my own personal stuff in there, and a lot of personal stuff, not overly personal, but personal enough, because a lot of when you're living in a car with someone for 5 months and you only knew them a couple of months before, I thought we're going to really get to know each other, and we're either going to like each other or I'm going to hate him at the end of it. So we had a lot of challenges, but we had some amazing experiences. So mostly it was written from my perspective, and as I've gone over the book again in the last 2 months, I've altered that to make it even more about how I was feeling throughout it too. And so that's
what do you think was the experience for you then? What did you learn on that journey about yourself?
Probably how resilient I am, and there was times when one of us was sick, and not both at the same time, lucky. And there was times when Alan was sick. A lot of times that he was quite ill, and I just had to be strong enough to and trust that we'll get through this. And we're stuck in a place, and at one point in the book I've got written, we're 3,000 kilometres from this way, from this sea and that, and there's only one way we've got to go. We've just got to keep it on going. So even through sickness, we met some amazing people. I guess the resilience and the strength, and I love that trip. When I open that book now, anywhere in it, I love it. I just think I'm so glad I wrote about it. It was my first big overland journey, and that was the catalyst for me to just fall in love with overlanding. No better way to travel, I don't reckon.
So what is it that it gives you that flying in and out can't?
Oh, just freedom and the wide open spaces, and to be able to just go where you want, when you want, and make your own decisions, and having that pure spontaneity that you can have with travel, that an itinerary the itineraries and set programs, I've got their space too, but it's the freedom of being able to just get up in the morning and make some brekkie, or be on the Atlantic coast and get down and get some mussels. And it's a simple life, I think, that the simplicity and being away from. I like wide open spaces. I love deserts, and I love that nature. If I could be there all the time and not have to go through any cities and other built up areas to get there, I'd like it even better.
Yeah. Why do you think people are fearful of those open spaces and nature? Because I think for some people that's actually really intimidating to be in that open space.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people say to me over the years, "Weren't you scared?" But
Mm,
I'll say, "Well, of what?" Like,
mm,
it's no bears or wolves or I don't believe there's anything to be scared of, and fear can just squash so many. I don't know. It can squash a lot of good stuff because you're
mm,
too scared to go in. So I'm more than likely to step into something that, even if there is a little bit of a fear or a bit of a challenge, I think that's sometimes a good reason to actually move forward, as long as their life's not in danger or not
mm,
those kind of things. But I remember years ago going to a women's workshop, and there was a woman, Carla, who ran that workshop, and I rang her because someone told me about it, and I was struggling with some. This is when I was much younger, with some women's things, and I don't know, but I felt like I need some help, and anyway, this man who was working with me in landscaping, he said, "Oh, there's Carla's having a workshop. You should give her a call." So I thought, all right, I'll ring her, and I said to her, "I'm really scared to come." She said, "Good. See you tomorrow. That's good. Come on up." And it was amazing because it was all this circle work and she'd look over at me and she'd go, "Come a bit closer." She'd encourage me to come a bit closer because once you get into the energy of that, and there's women
mm,
going through the stuff and expressing, because it was all women, expressing their so- often quite a bit of rage from past abuses and things like that. But once you get into that energy, you can't not feel it. And
mm,
that's the power in it. And I've never forgotten that, uh, her saying or someone saying to me, if it's challenging, or it's going to challenge you, step into it if you can, even if you just do little steps, but move towards it, because that's this cracking open of the fear of
mm,
yeah, and that's also what comes with that is understanding how powerful and strong you are, because it's what happens afterwards is you're just like, "Yeah, I feel amazing because I've done this." And it
mm,
just takes courage. It takes continually pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, and even if it's tiny steps, because that's the way to do it, because then it's not so overwhelming and it's like, you're okay. And that's why a lot of the women's travel sites are so good too. The other little, the solo women and that, they're like terrified of making that first step. And I said, what's the worst that can happen? Pull it down into spaces and into smaller bits. And if you can't think you can do it yet, just go to the next town for the weekend or something, and see how good, and then eventually something goes, "Oh, I actually really like this."
mm.
You know?
The power
Yeah.
is the power of women's circles as well. That's something that I've been talking to a lot of women about, is that something that didn't really come to me until later in life, that recognition. And I think maybe just things have changed at this point in your life, but that space that you step into women where they are sharing their stories and there's vulnerability and you're able
Mm.
to express all of those feelings, and it gives you a different kind of strength, I think, and different perspectives when you sit with other women. Very
Yeah.
powerful.
It is, because I could feel there's a lot to do with, pardon me, with energy there too. We're actually holding space for another person
Yeah.
that's allowed themselves to become vulnerable enough where they can release their emotions and just cry or whatever. Because
Mm,
as even that is, I see that a lot on some of the talent shows. I watch the AGT now, and then I watch them because they always bring me to tears watching all those amazing people singing. But some of the
mm,
women, and usually, if they get accolades and that, most women, and I've noticed it a lot when they're going into them, like they will cover their faces,
mm,
and I've really noticed it a lot in the last few years. And I said, "What is that?" It's like there's an embarrassment to cry, or they say sorry, and
mm,
I say to myself, women say sorry too much. We don't need to
mm.
be sorry. We don't need to be sorry for who we are, you know.
No, that's
No,
right.
but we're unraveling a whole lot of patriarchal society, um, and what it is women supporting other women, and we need to raise each other up, not push each other down because, oh,
No.
she looks beautiful in me, or all that. shit that we've been dealt. Sorry, swear.
No, that's okay.
All the stuff that we've been dealt our whole lives. You know,
Yeah.
it really.
Yeah, I see it more, and I think in this stage in life, you let go. Someone said to it actually on one of the other podcasts, Camilla. She was talking about how that competitive is removed, that competitive edge is removed, and that changes the game amongst women, which is kind of sad, really. But maybe that is evolutionary. I don't know. It could be seen in
Mm,
those perspectives, but you could also talk it's a very societal control mechanism, possibly.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so you did that tour, so that was huge for you. You've talked to me about your experiences. You mentioned Mongolia. What's that whole story with Mongolia? What was it about Mongolia? Why did you go
Mm.
there? Why did you keep going back? What kept calling you there?
Well, when we went on that Australia to Switzerland trip, we went down into Mongolia, and I knew
Mm.
before I knew anything about Mongolia that it would be the jewel in that trip. I felt really drawn. So there's some, I have some connection to there. Um, Same, it's the culture, it's the wide open space, the simplicity of the way people live. Their culture is really strong, and as I've gone back over the years, it's getting stronger and stronger, and it's beautiful to see that because they were under the USSR for quite a while. So, that all of that it has to be sort of unraveled, but their own culture is becoming stronger. So when we went there, we spent 8 weeks just traveling in the Land Rover, just camping and meeting people, meeting lots of local people and watching, the herders. And that was the biggest thing. Their connection is so beautiful. They never lock their doors. They've got all these gears, the yurts, and you can go up anytime. They're always open to come out with a little bowl of milk, call you inside. Doesn't matter who you are, what time of night or day it is or anything. That's just their culture. Very heartwarming people. And so when we came back to Australia after that trip, that first trip, and because Alan used to take people on safaris or expeditions in Australia, some of those travellers said, "Oh, why don't you run a trip in Mongolia and can we come over and you take us for a camping trip?" So that's how it started, really. We didn't intend to do it, but then from then on, we ran quite a few small trips once a year. People would just meet us there, usually just initially Australians, and then I started to do a few of my own. And I was on the Thelma and Louise site, which is, I think I wrote that way back. And I used to put my trips and write stories for them, and did a couple of podcasts, and so I got a few women from that trip from UK and America and Canada and yeah, that was, and a few Australian people used to come. So I used to just have a small group of women, and we would just go overland in Russian vehicles with tents and very grassroots, very rustic. Told right, this bring what to expect if someone contacted me, and I say don't expect flushing toilets, or don't expect a shower probably for maybe once on the whole 28 days, but just it was really grassroots, but trying to instill that the roads are just tracks, they're rough, and if you can cope with that, the scenery and the valleys and the mountains is absolutely spectacular. It'll just take your breath away. So I just fell in love with it, and so I just kept going back. My last time I went was last year. Was it last year? Yeah. But I might go back one more time, because every time I see anything to do with Mongolia or pictures or anything, I just go, oh, I feel my heartstrings just tugging me there to go back. So that's why I decided to go
Yeah,
somewhere
it's
else.
funny, isn't it? There are certain places that we just find we feel connected to. I feel like that in Asia, and it's interesting. So I was just thinking then about some of the women that would have come on those trips. That would have been something very, very different they had ever experienced. How did they? What was the biggest transformative change that you saw in those women through those experiences?
Well, it was interesting because you're saying transformative, because I would sometimes think I need to take a picture of them when they first arrive and a
Mm.
picture when they leave. And the one thing that always happened is they relaxed, they looked healthier, they were suntanned. They just kind of had got it, because the trips were um, doing a minimum of 21 days, but usually 28 days. So they were long. And so you had time to, people went through all the hardships and the challenges and there's no time to think about it when you're there. We had some of the wins of that in Mongolia, or just pick your tent up, take it to China, so I've had photos of women holding these are, and all older women too. I didn't take any younger people because I always wanted to take people, because I just find the group would be better together like that. And had different expectations too. So photographers, some people that were maybe naturalists, or they were sort of the people that were more keen to come. I did have a couple of times. One woman from England who I remember her sitting in the back of the car, and when we first got sort of out of the city and then got on the tracks, are just like these brown snakes going off into every angle. And I remember looking back at her, and she said, "I think I've bitten off more than I can chew." She was, and she did struggle the whole way. She used to get on the booze a bit. So there's a lot of challenges running trips like that too. And I think I don't think I've ever been cut out for it. I used to always hope that people would see what I saw, but I mean, that's a ridiculous expectation too. And another woman, I took a group of women which another travel company asked me to take, and it was a very upmarket Australian company. And I remember one of the women coming out of one of the drop toilets, because it's all just drop. There's no flush or anything. And she'd come out and she'd go, "Nobody should ever have to endure something like that," because it was just like the flies and but you've probably seen all that, the drop toilets, what they're like, and I think, well, how can they miss the hole? Like, how can you miss it so badly, some of the stuff. But you just become, for me, it was just like, I think I have a really high tolerance to anything like that. It just,
I think
when
the
we
more you
came,
experience it, the more it becomes normal. And I think that's the beauty of traveling through other cultures. Like you said something to me about how you like to experience that glimmer of other people's lives, and how that changes you. So what do you think it is that about traveling and seeing other people's lives? What does it give to you as a woman?
oh,
As a human, maybe,
yeah, well, it definitely gives me gratitude for my
Yeah.
life and how easy my life is, and how, just being able to turn on a tap and have water coming out of a tap, or just the really simple things in life. And I think it just builds more resilience and more a more willingness to be able to give too. That's the other thing that I've noticed has grown more and more, because the early days in Mongolia, I used to think, well, we can't just travel over the countryside and do nothing, and what can we do? So we took, asked everybody to bring really, really good quality children's clothes, just a few if they could fit them in a bag, because the nomadic herders have plenty of animals and they have what they need, but they don't have extra money to buy their kids extra clothes, and so people would bring, and we had one year we had 75 kilos of clothes. We couldn't meet enough people to give them all away, but there were, and little just knitted beanies and that, but everything had to be good and wool and not, just, and that was one way of giving back. That's one thing that came through every time, was wanting to give something back to.
You talked there about how it gives you, but so it enriches you as a human. You also talked about you were giving gifts then. You wanted to give more to the people that you was visiting. I do remember a wonderful story you told me about when you went on the trip through Africa. Would you like to share that one, that you had something that
Yeah.
you took with you?
Yeah. Well, when Alan said, "Let's go to Africa," and I thought, okay, because I'd always wanted to go to Africa. So, but I thought, I'm not going to, because the truck we travelled in was big old Russian ex-military truck, and the steering wheel was on the wrong side, of course, for me. And yeah, I have a truck license and I can drive a truck, but I couldn't drive that thing. So he was always driving and I was always sitting, and I thought, I don't want to go if I'm just going to be sitting there every day. So just did some research to found out that the one thing the women could use was sanitary pads, or because it was dismal. There was stories of women using mud and grass and that to try and stem the flow of blood when they had their monthly periods, and also for some young women having to get married off because their parents couldn't afford to deal with, or sometimes they lived in such remote places they didn't have anything. So anyway, that's how it started. But I started to make a few, got some patterns and all that stuff, and sewed a few things. And I thought, oh, God, it's going to take me a year just to get enough to take. And then I ended recruiting a whole lot of women from. Actually, they're only 30 k's from here where I am now, which is interesting. So I met up with them the other day, which was just
Oh,
wonderful.
wonderful.
Yeah, and they made me 435 sanitary pads out of cloth. But to get all the goods for that, I just put out on Facebook up at next local town and said, I'm doing this project. Can anybody like to donate pins, cotton, patterns, scissors? And I got, and cloth, and, like good quality old flannelette sheets and towels. And so anyway, we had this two afternoons at their sewing thing that they do. They're all quilted up there. And they made these 435 pads, all overlocked beautifully, and put them all into paper bags with a pattern. And the patterns were just made from, most of them were just made from ice cream container lids, or just the shape of it, or X-ray sheets, which were, that hard plastic stuff that X-rays come on. So we just put one of them and buttons and everything that a woman would need to make a couple of pads, not the fabric though. So that was just too hard to do that as well. And then ended up taking 23 kilo suitcases of stuff over to Morocco. That's where it started.
Fabulous.
And it was amazing. I started in a Amal cooking school / little cafe thing, which is teaches women how to work in cafes and hospitality and how to cook and all that. Moroccan, it's all Moroccan. It was in Marrakesh, and took some and did a little workshop with them there. It was just everywhere I went was just really welcomed with open arms, and even did some on dusty tracks and that, where I'd see a woman walking along, basket on her head, or a little kid, or on a push bike, and just ask them to stop and just give her a packet, show her what was in it. And sometimes they didn't really know because we had that language barrier, which is always fantastic too. And I prefer to have the language barrier than to be able to speak fluently, because I just think it just opens up this whole other world of
It does.
of connection. And
Yeah.
some of the even women who were taking harvesting shea nuts to make shea butter, in this forest, and there's called up, and there's so there's this exchange of women, donkeys towing carts in the middle of on the edge of the Sahara, which is dust, nothing but dust, nothing growing, and giving them and it was just, I think from there it sort of went out. Some of the pads went right out into the Sahara to out near Mali, on this Bedouin guy that I met, this Saharawian guy with this full dress, and he took 30 packets or something out, and he said the women will like this because they have nothing out there. So
Wow.
it was really worthwhile, and it was worthwhile doing the research and asking for help, and it became a really collective. Yeah, it's very special.
I
And
love
see,
that.
I got so much from that. Most personally, yeah.
Absolutely. What a legacy as well. But I love the fact that the community here, the women all came together to give to the
Yeah.
women over there. I mean, it's just, what an incredible thing to have been able to organise and
know.
achieve and give. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, prefer to do it that way than to actually give to a charity. I mean,
Yeah.
I give, and even if I'm in Ulaanbaatar, and there's a lot of street kids and that there, and they always coming and asking, and I give them food. I'll go to a
Yeah.
fruit store and buy bananas or buy a big bag of bread, and there was a young fella that when we first went on that very first time, that came up, stood next to us on a street corner, and he kind of walked over. It was a bit robotic. Beautiful. I'll never forget his face. He was about, I have to say, about 16 or 17, ruddy, like he'd lived his whole life outside, Anyway, he was trying to engage with us, and he pulled his hand, and he had prosthetic limbs, and then he pulled his pants up, and from the knees down he had prosthetic legs as well. I was like,
Wow.
wow. Anyway, we've seen him quite a few times over the years, and always just given him food, and he takes it back to, because all those kids there live under the ground in amongst the hot water pipes in winter, because
Wow.
Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia is minus 30. It's
Yeah.
minus 30 there now at the moment, and they live amongst the hot water pipes, and that's how they survive. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Incredible
it's
story. So your writing then is really interesting. So you're recording a lot of this. Do you feel like a responsibility to witness it and translate all those experiences for women who may never travel like you have? Like what is it that drives you to write, and what's the purpose of it?
to share the experiences,
Yeah.
to share how other people live. The first book that I wrote that I'm just redoing or have just redone has got a lot of photos in it too. So and they're really rustic looking photos because I had an old camera. But I'll keep the same. I want to keep it the same because it is very rustic, and my voice is strong in that book, and that's what it is. I mean, sure, I get some satisfaction out of it, but it is sharing with people that I've often heard from some of my older friends who've always been strong travellers over the years, and people that I've travelled with Alan on his expeditions years ago have said they love to read. They call it armchair travel because they can't travel or choose not to
Yes.
travel anymore. And so they still get that sense of, because they can also relate to the feelings of what it's like when you travel. So, yeah, I'm hoping that I can continue travelling. I'll keep travelling until I can't, I guess.
Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely. I'm with you on that one. And that's a
and the
lot of
world's
what drives me
changing.
keeping fit, like mentally and physically, is to be able to keep doing that.
Yes, yeah.
Moving forward. So you've talked a lot about women's and the women's experience. How do you think like nomadic life has kind of shaped your understanding of the feminine and the strength that we have and the power that we carried? Has traveling informed that, or do you think that's just your experience through life?
Yeah, travelling has, because I see how other cultures live, and I see what the women do. That's, I see they're the ones that hold up everything, basically. I do believe that in the developing countries, as Mongolia is very gender equal from my observations, and the women and the men, they don't have their designated roles as such. Well, they have children and all that, but they work really well. It's very balanced, and I think it's because I think that's why their culture and their uh, are still alive, and they're still, because the extremes of weather and the cold is there's people die all the time from just getting stuck out in a blizzard, and suddenly the temperature can drop 20 degrees, and they die out there. They can't find their way back, or there's a blizzard, and that's not it's not something that happens occasionally. It happens a lot, and
Right.
so it's seeing their strength and resilience, and seeing women everywhere in the fields, and whether it's a Muslim country or in Africa, and that they just get in and do stuff. I see a lot of men sitting around playing cards and smoking, and I'm like, yeah, get out there and help those women. That's I've always believed that women are strong, but when I see it more, and
Yes.
just I am able to observe the culture and understand that that's just the way it is, and I'm not there to change it or anything. Of course, that's but the
Yeah.
acceptance of that. But I also I see it, but I
Yeah.
think it more been learned through my upbringing and just seeing what Western society feeds the women, as far as media and all that, and how we program, or how we've been programmed. I see that breaking down. I don't know
Yeah.
where it's all going to go, but I don't know.
So your message is really clear, isn't it? That we are stronger than we believe as women. But so what do you think it is that many women do underestimate their own power? So if they wanted to travel or make a change, they don't always believe that they're able to do it. Why do you think women do doubt themselves?
I think they fear that they're going to be. I think I do believe it all comes from TV and the media, most of it, because
Yeah.
It depends if a woman's been in a DV situation, and many, many, many have been or are. It erodes your sense of self-esteem, your self of strength, your sense of that you can do this. I know because I've been there. I know where I was at long time ago, and that woman helping me up and taking me to a AA Al-Anon meeting and showing me, but it was a long, slow progression to get out of that because I think your self-esteem and your strength and who you ever thought you were can get completely squashed. And I know that to climb back out of that is a long, slow, difficult process. So I think a lot of it comes from that, and a lot of it comes from what we see on TV, what we're shown. Almost every single movie's got, or crime scene there's always a woman who's been murdered, or a body's been found, or she's been raped, and it's just weird, it's been rammed down our throat till we've become so desensitized to it that I think, and a lot of people think there's baddies out there. Yeah, sure there is, but it is about learning to trust yourself, I think, and work on that strength and build up and get some support around you as well. I think having support of other women, even if I've got to do something that I think is difficult, like use a chainsaw or something, which I absolutely hate, but I can do it if I have to. If there's someone else there, even if they're not doing anything, is just having that moral support, I guess it is.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that answered your questions. I kind of waffled on a bit.
No, it's just it's interesting to think about why women often underestimate, and it can be their life circumstances what have brought them to that position, isn't it? Where they feel disempowered. It can be through work, it can be through relationships, it can be through their upbringing. And I think your message is really clear that by taking small steps, you can start to empower yourself, and anything that you're fearful of is to take steps to overcome that fear, because it's through overcoming that fear that you're able to empower yourself and realize that you are capable and you can do it, and you're more able than you could ever imagine. Whatever you can dream, you're able to do it. I honestly believe that. It's that power of mind and thought.
Yeah.
I
and we
love
see
that.
it sorry, go on. Yep.
No, go,
yeah,
please.
I do too. I see it in a lot of cultures too, where women are not allowed to do this because they're a woman, or girls are not allowed to, or all of a sudden the girls get to a certain age, they've got to cover up, or they're not allowed to go to school, or, they've always been sort of put on the back burner, whereas even through all the time where the one-child policy, and all the time in India where so many girl babies were slaughtered, and that's, those are all things that are sometimes horrendous, but they do happen, and I want to know the truth. So I don't go looking for it because sometimes it's so tragic, but I also will not shy away from it either because I want to know the truth of what really happened. And all of these things impact, and I think our ancestral stuff through our mothers and our grandmothers and way beyond, that all impacts us too, all of that stuff. There's some really good therapies. I've got a couple of friends that do that called family constellations, where you can actually deal with a lot of that stuff and shift a lot of that stuff, and how much of it has come from a long way back. It's not just who we are now. We've got all that DNA and all those memories and all those things still within us. So I think it's recognizing in that and going, okay, well, I can change it. I can be the change, especially if you've got daughters as well. It can be the one that makes it different. So that we
Do you
go
think
on.
there is more opportunity for women now in the West, where we live, in the developed world? I don't like that word, actually, that developed, undeveloped. Do you think there's more opportunity for women now in our Western world, that they're able to start pushing through and overcoming and have more of a voice? Do you see that more now in your lifetime? Do you see that change?
Yeah, I think so. Yep. Compared to like the 50s and that, it's been a long time coming, but I see more and more women. And there's the more women that stand up and are empowered and are in the public eye, or that young women are connected with or exposed to, the more chance that they are. So I think the role models and the women that stand up and do what they want to do. Yeah, I think there's more. I think but it's that groundswell. It's like a wave that's just like slowly building, but I think it's still slow. And it does, it also definitely depends on what your family's like too, and what your mother's like, what you saw when you grew up, what your teachers, we have so many influences. But I think parents now need to spend more time with their boys and girls and teach them from a really young age. Like they need to mentor them from a really young age and set those things in place about, to trust yourself and allow them to do things with support and all that. And that's all about that empowering thing that comes from when they're really tiny, I think. I think just, a lot of the stuff that's in school and that is still, I'm glad I don't have children I'm putting through school now. They wouldn't be going to school, they'd be homeschooled. Anyway, I would do it all different. But I think, I think there is opportunities for you if you know where to look and if you've got someone to help.
So it's finding that circle of friends. How do you think then, as we move towards the end of the interview, how do you think travel comes into play then in that space for women and empowerment at this point in life,
Yeah, I think, one of the best things I think any young woman can do if she's got the blessings of her parents and some assistance is to go and travel early. Even if she's not traveling by herself, if she's going to a relative or she's going on a trip or something, and because that's immediately starts to give you the experience and all the feelings that go with that and sensations. And once you see something, people can be going along a certain way and all of a sudden they see something and it absolutely, even at 15, 16, 17, 18, changes their life forever because it's opened up this whole other thing. And quite often, though, the ones that do get to travel when they're young will go and look for more because they want more. They want to learn more. And it just broadens everything. So life's not just about here. It's like, and how other people live. That's, just amazing. I love cultures. I love other cultures. I really do.
Yeah, I do. I'm fascinated by. So, if there was a woman who's sitting, listening to this, or is sitting through those groups, watching everyone, and she's unsure of what she wants to do, what would be your advice? What would you say to that woman who's in midlife and who's really wanting to travel and find those experiences, but really is unsure?
Well, I would encourage her to step into something, but I would also encourage her to take slow steps, to take little steps and take what feels. Yeah, you can challenge yourself a bit, but don't not do it. I mean, there's one thing dreaming about something, and you can dream and dream. And I heard it over and over from many people. Oh, I really want to go there, or I really want to go there, and I'd say, well, what's stopping you? Like life keeps on going. Don't wait. Or find someone else to travel with if you can't do it on your own. Have that support, and that's what finding a travel buddy just for that initial or doing that first little trip on your own, just going, connect with other people to do that first bit, but don't not do it because you can dream and dream and dream, but if you don't take that action, it's never going to happen. You must act.
Action.
That's the third step. That's step into something. I would just encourage, and I be brave, and sure, it's all right to be a little bit scared, but don't let it overwhelm you because what's the worst thing that can happen? That's
the thing is that's a really good little thought, isn't it? What's the worst thing that can happen? Just go forward, and trust is building trust, and that's where you're going to build trust through those little steps. So what does freedom look like for you now then, after a lifetime of movement? We kind of probably end where we began in a way.
Yeah, well, I'm not done, that's for sure. Like India, and no, I'm not done. I'm going down south. That's the first thing, going right down near the Victorian border because I want to be near my daughter for a while, and she's going to look after my dog while I go travel for a month. And I've always wanted to go to India, but I'm like, it's a bit. I've always been a little bit not scared of it. A little bit. Could I cope with poverty? Could I cope with? But I see poverty completely different now too. So that's all changed. And But after that, I don't know. I'm really wanting just to get back into land care and restoring the earth and putting some time into that for a while, and because
Beautiful.
the earth needs it really. And
It
then
does.
the trips will come up. As they come up, there's still a couple of women that want to go to Mongolia, and I said I won't go this year, but they say, "Oh, let me know when you go again." So, if there's a few that want to go, and I just want someone else to go because I've seen so much of the place that I don't. Yeah, I don't need to go on my own again just to see it. I'll be just going to see friends, but I'd love to do some more camping. But it's changing too. Everything's changing. So yeah.
Such
I
is
don't
the
know.
nature of life, isn't it? Everything changes.
Yeah, and the
Everything's
freedom.
always nothing stops. It's always
No,
changing. It's always in a process of change.
and freedom is being able to choose and to being able to think about where would I like to go. The world gets small when you've travelled a lot, doesn't it?
Knows. What a beautiful
Mm.
place to be. I can resonate with you on that one. Like, what comes next?
Yes.
I'm excited by not knowing what comes next. It's okay, like, because
Yeah, me
there's
too.
that
Yeah.
anticipation, Rensina, thank you so much for such a wonderful chat and so much in there to learn from you. I really appreciate your wisdom and experience. Thank you so much for today.
Thanks, Joanna. Thanks for asking me. It's been really, really nice. Thank you. Good on
Lovely.
you.
Thank
You're
you.
doing good work.
Oh, thank you so much. You've been listening to Butterfly Journeys Midlife Adventures with me, Joanna. Until next time, may you keep awakening, emerging, and evolving on your own midlife butterfly journey. Follow the podcast, hit subscribe, and share it with your fellow midlife butterflies. And if you have a story to share, reach out. My emails and DMs are in the show notes. I would love to hear from you. Your journey could inspire another woman.